Good morning, One Life America. Happy Thanksgiving week to everyone. We should give thanks every day. However, this happens to be that week of the year where we cook an abundance of food, invite over the family, and remember the many reasons that we are a blessed people. This morning's devotion is going to be brought to us by Miss Carolyn Jenkins, who serves One Life as an executive assistant and has worked for Ken Parker for over 20 years. Carolyn is married to a great man, Mr. Cliff Jenkins, and has two grown children, Tracy and Chip. When One Life started an Employee of the Month program years ago, she was the very first recipient of that award, and that's for a great reason. You see, Miss Carolyn should be the poster child for kindness, compassion, and she's blushing right now, just so you know, love, joy, and peace. She glows with the love of Christ and is always smiling no matter what challenges she might be facing. So we're glad to have Miss Carolyn bring our devotion this morning.
Thank you so much, David. I have much to be thankful for because I serve a living Savior who loves me and He sees me through every circumstance. And this is Thanksgiving week, a wonderful week of celebration, to be thankful to the Lord for all of our blessings. And we have much to be thankful for in America. God has abundantly blessed our nation. We've been blessed above all nations. There's no nation that has enjoyed the prosperity and the abundance that we have here in this nation. And there's a reason for our blessings. After enduring the bitterness of winter, our early colonists settled and they decided to feast and celebrate their survival, giving thanks to God for His protection, for provisions throughout the past months. It was a spontaneous celebration of praise. God had turned their hardships, their sorrows, their pains into gratitude, health, and joy. And that was in the year of 1621 that we acknowledge as the first Thanksgiving celebration. And then for 200 years, the different colonies celebrated Thanksgiving on different days according to when each colony wanted to celebrate. But in 1863, President Abraham Lincoln, in the middle of the Civil War, made the Thanksgiving Day a national day of Thanksgiving, a national day of celebration for the country, all on the same day. And I'm so glad and I'm so thankful for all that God has done for us in this country and for me personally. And so I'm going to read a psalm first, Psalm 117. Praise the Lord, all you nations. Extol Him, all you peoples, for great is His love toward us. The faithfulness of the Lord endures forever. Our God is a good God, and that's why we have enjoyed so many wonderful things here, because we look to God, the God of the Holy Bible. But I'm sad to say today that our nation has strayed far from what our founding fathers established our nation on, the principles. I'm sad, and I'm praying that we will turn back to God, that we will renew our faith in Him as a nation. And many people across our country are praying for a great awakening in America, where we will turn back to God with all of our hearts. And in Chronicles, the Lord told us that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. That's a beautiful promise, but there's a condition. We have to repent of our wicked ways. We have to humble ourselves and ask God to forgive us for how far we have strayed from what we were founded upon in America. He will hear our prayer. He will restore our land, but we have to do our part. And I pray that you're joining in with all those thousands across America that are seeking the Lord for a great awakening in our country. And I thank the Lord for what He's done for us already. and for what He's going to do for us in the future. And I thank you, David, for this privilege.
Thank you, Sunshine. I appreciate it. I call her Sunshine affectionately because she's always bright and shining and happy and brings out the best in others. And, it is, if you happen to be a friend of mine on Facebook, on social media, you'll see a picture I put of my family. And on there this weekend, we had our Thanksgiving celebration early. My brother is finishing up his med school, and my grandfather on my dad's side, my dad's dad is traveling to Texas Thanksgiving, so we got together early, and that's one of the things. There's so many things, outside just family that I had to be thankful for, but the knowing that the faith of the Lord will endure forever is something I should be reminded of every day, and very thankful for, that whatever the situation is, He has my hand.
That's right.
So thank you. I appreciate you, Miss Carolyn. And we'll dive right into our production report this morning. And for the week of 11/9 through 11/13, One Life submitted $653,973 of submitted annualized premium. That was a great week. We're trying to get back above that $700,000 mark, though. We need your help in doing so. The top 10 agents for the week. Number 1, an agent of the week, Anthony Chamberlain, with $11,112 of submitted annual premium. Steve Thornton with $10,770. That's our reigning agent of the year. Mark Williams at number 3 with $10,276 of submitted premium. Kirsten Goodman with $10,152. Christine Charles with $10,076. Number 6, Reggie Forbes with $9,681 of submitted AP. Number 7, Landon Ramirez with $9,277. Coming in at number 8, Scott Shaddy, $7,922 out of the Chicago area. Number 9, Dondi Sott, $7,367 of submitted AP. And rounding out the top 10, Mr. John Spinner with $7,350.60 of submitted annualized premium. Want to go ahead and roll out. I'm going to send an email out after this conference call, but our fourth quarter cash contest, and it's our traditional Christmas cash contest. The dates are going to be Monday, November the 30th through Sunday, December the 18th. It's a 3-week contest. There is not an individual weekly payout, but an accumulative production for the 3 total weeks. So we have different levels, anywhere from $100 to $1,000 that you can win during this cash contest. Watch for that email coming out here this afternoon. So remember, November 30th through December the 18th, it's going to be a great contest. This is for our career agents, and I'll send that out here shortly. Our next academy is just 2 weeks away. We need your help in promoting this academy. It's the last of the year, getting those new agents. They're starting to trickle in here, and I know 2 weeks out is when we really start picking up some progress, but encourage them to go ahead and get registered. Thanksgiving is going to be here, and they'll be tied up with family, and we'd like to go ahead and get the registration in, make sure they have a seat reserved. So just 2 weeks away from the next academy. Just a reminder that all the One Life offices will be closed this Thursday, the 26th, and Friday, the 27th, in observation of Thanksgiving. So go ahead and get your business submitted on Wednesday or back in the office next Monday, the 30th, to get counted for production. Also, make sure to get plugged into all of our social media outlets through our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn page, our YouTube channel, and obviously these conference calls on a weekly basis. Our featured speaker this morning is Mr. Lee Mowry. And Lee graduated from Georgia Tech, and surely he's no stranger to anyone on this call. He graduated from Georgia Tech with a degree in engineering, but transitioned into the insurance industry rather quickly. He started as an agent in the 70s and built his own successful IMO before joining Occidental Life of North Carolina as VP of Marketing in 1993. In 1998, he moved to Shenandoah Life as the VP of Marketing and Sales. 11 years later, he joined AmeriLife as their president of the IMO division. Just when Lee thought he could retire, Ken Parker called him and said, "Come join One Life." And he now serves One Life and has for a while now as our Vice President of Sales. And we're very lucky to have Lee on our staff with his connections in the insurance industry and what he brings to the table. So, Lee, I'm going to see, are you available and with us on this morning's call?
I am here, David. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you very clearly. Thank you, Lee, for joining us, and I'm going to turn the call over to you.
Great. Thank you, David, very much. And first of all, let me say what an honor it is to be on any call with Miss Carolyn Jenkins. I have so much admiration for her and for all of you on this call who are part of the One Life family. Let me first apologize if I happen to cough or sneeze during this. I've got my annual head cold, so I'm filling myself with cold medicines, but I apologize if I have to sneeze or cough during our talk. David asked me to be on today's call, and he always leaves it open for us to come up with whatever subject we think might be of interest to you. I thought this might be a little different. It's a different angle on sales, and I thought you might be interested in me talking today about selling final expense insurance in the funeral home market. I don't know if any of you have done it before. I've had quite a bit of experience in it, and I want to go over a few things that I thought might be of interest to you, and it may work for some of you. First of all, let me ask you an obvious question. Other than those of us who work with final expense insurance and clients every day, who probably knows as much about final expenses as we do? Well, the obvious answer is the funeral director. He works with it every day. And funeral directors can be a tremendous source of prospects and sales of final expense insurance if you will cultivate a relationship with them. I want to be sure and preface this by saying I don't want to replace anything you're now doing. This would only be a supplement or a complement to what you're already doing. Let me give you some interesting facts first on this market. This is amazing. I found this an interesting fact. It's estimated that an average of 8 individuals or families walk into a typical funeral home in America each week to plan their funerals. 8 families. The majority of those individuals or families have no idea what the cost of an average funeral is or how they plan to pay for it. I can tell you from experience, many times funeral directors conduct funerals and bury loved ones and never get paid for their services. They do quite a service out there for humanity and families, and oftentimes there's just no money there to pay for it, and they just have to eat the cost. You can provide them with a source of funding for funerals that their clients are planning through final expense insurance. Now, the National Funeral Directors Association, the NFDA, estimates, and you may not know what the average cost of a funeral is nowadays, but in 2014, the most recent numbers, the average funeral cost in America in 2014 was $7,181. If you include a vault with that, and that's for an average burial, the cost goes up to $8,508. And that's been increasing each year, as you would expect it would, with the cost of materials. Now, you might say, well, what about cremation? Cremation is probably a lot cheaper. Well, not so. Not as much as you might think. The average cost of cremation in 2014 was $6,078. So really only about $1,100 less than the average burial without a vault. In 2005, 61.4% of funerals were burials and 32.3% were cremations. However, that trend is changing. You may not be surprised to hear that in 2015, this year, 10 years later, it is projected that 48.5% of all funerals will be cremations and 45.6% will be burials. So cremations will actually exceed burials this year. And estimates are that by 2030, the percentage of cremations is projected to be over 71%. There are over 19,391 funeral homes in the United States, and 86% of them are privately owned by families or individuals. So only 14% are corporately owned by public traded corporations like SCI, the mother company of Dignity Planning. So don't think you can't work the majority of funeral homes because of the corporate ownership. Most of them are privately owned. Let's talk about the funding for funerals. Other than cash, which certainly is the prevalent way that funeral directors would prefer, but many people do not have the cash on hand to pay for a funeral, either pre-planning or at time of need. The methods for funding funerals include what's called trusting. Some states have trusting required, where a funeral director deposits the monies received from people into a trust account in the bank. There's also pre-need insurance, as well as final expense insurance. And let me give you a strong warning here. You need to check with your state insurance department before you get into this market to see what your state's policy is in regard to funding of funerals. Do not confuse pre-need insurance with final expense insurance. There is a big difference. Pre-need insurance, in most cases, involves an increasing face amount policy designed to help offset the rising cost of funerals in the future, to offset inflation. It is most often used to fund a pre-need contract that the funeral director makes with the client or family, guaranteeing that he will provide all of the products and services outlined in that contract at any time in the future that they may die at no additional cost. So the funeral director is bound by that pre-need contract. Pre-need insurance is oftentimes guaranteed issue coverage. It's most often paid on a single premium basis. However, some pre-need companies do offer a 3, 7, 10, or 20 pay policy paid on a monthly basis. But whether it's single pay or monthly pay, the premiums for pre-need insurance are very, very high, much higher than final expense insurance. It's not uncommon to find a premium of $900 per thousand for pre-need insurance. In other words, there's very little at risk by the insurance company. It is mostly cash approaching the face amount. Pre-need insurance carriers may not necessarily be household words. They include companies like Homesteaders, Southland National, Great Western, NGL, and the largest is a pretty well-known company, and that is Forethought. But most of the pre-need insurance carriers are not known associated necessarily with life insurance. They are pre-need insurance companies. Some states require that only pre-need insurance can be used to fund a pre-need contract, not final expense. So there again, check on your state's regulations. Some states also do not allow a funeral director or a funeral home to be a beneficiary. That is not necessarily a problem. When I was in this market, what we used was an assignment form where the benefits were assigned to a funeral home or a funeral director at death, or the benefits can simply be paid to the family to help fund the funeral. But once again, let me remind you, this is not meant to substitute what you're doing. Continue to work with your leads as your primary focus. Now let me ask this question. How do I get into this funeral director market if you're interested? First of all, it's obvious. Probably everybody on this call knows or knows of a local funeral director. Probably someone who's performed funeral services for your family or your friends. So your first move is to drop in and say hello, call them on the phone, just introduce yourself, and suggest to that funeral director that you can work with him or her to help provide funding for funerals at a very affordable cost. If he's marketing pre-need insurance, and he may be, to fund funerals, don't try to tear down pre-need insurance. Just show him the advantages of final expense insurance over pre-need, including the much, much lower premiums and no need for a pre-need contract. Show him that the cost savings final expense offers over pre-need allows him or his staff to overfund funerals for his clients to help offset that increase in funeral costs later. Find out if he has an insurance license, or if someone on his staff has an insurance license. Many, many funeral homes do have a licensed representative on their staff, or the funeral director himself may be licensed. And then allow him to contract under you or split commissions with you if he wants you to make the sales. We did both with the funeral homes I worked with. Then suggest that he send out a survey letter. A couple of groups have heard me talk about this before. A survey letter can be very, very effective. You send it out on funeral home letterhead to all the families in his files that he served through the years, or even to all the residents in his area. Pull up a list of everyone. Generally, the funeral director, in my case, he paid for this mainly because it's promoting his own services in his own funeral home. And it's offering information on pre-planning a funeral and, quote, a free gift. What we gave away when I was working with funeral homes was an end-of-life planner like the one we use now at One Life America. We also had a little magnifying glass, magnifying ruler that was a bookmark for their Bible that was very popular. They cost pennies. But it's the fact that you're giving away something for free in addition to the pre-planning information. And I'll be glad to share copies of that survey letter with anyone who's interested. David, I can make that available to the home office or however we need to do it. I have several survey letters that work for us. The survey letter contained general questions, like, have you ever considered a prepaid funeral plan? Do you own any life insurance? Do you know the average cost of a funeral? And the questions could be anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15 questions that are general information that the funeral director needs to know and will benefit from, as well as you, if you're trying to fund that funeral. The funeral home will definitely get much better response to that letter on their letterhead than you would if you or I sent out a final expense letter, because of the familiarity of the funeral home and the funeral director in the local community. We got an amazing 10 to 15% response rate on our survey letters that we did. This was in the early 90s. that were sent out from my funeral homes, and I'm revising one now that I will make available to anyone who's interested. Then you or the funeral director, either you or the funeral director or a licensed member, if they have a licensed insurance agent member of their staff, should then call each person who responds to the survey letter. Introduce yourself as calling from XYZ Funeral Home. You want to thank them for responding to the recent survey letter regarding pre-planning a funeral. I have a script that I'd also be glad to share. Let me just read this brief letter to you. This is what we used. Hello, Ms. Jones. This is Lee Mowry with Acme Funeral Home in St. Mary's, Georgia, and I'm calling you because you responded to the survey letter which we sent out recently. You may recall that we are offering a free gift to anyone who participated in the survey as a way of saying thank you for providing us with information that will help us to continue to improve on the services which we provide to the community. Mrs. Jones, you may also recall that our survey asked a number of questions about final arrangements, pre-planning these arrangements, and your own preferences, and you indicated an interest in getting some free information on funeral planning and the types of services we provide. Mrs. Jones, would you prefer to stop by the funeral home and pick up your free gift and information, or would you rather us bring it to you? When would be the most convenient time for us to stop by, or when would be the most convenient time for us to stop by your house or you to stop by here? We'll be planning on seeing you on blank, and once again, thank you for participating in the survey. That script worked over and over and over, whether it was a funeral director, a member of his staff, or even a licensed agent with the permission of the funeral home calling, representing the funeral home. Funeral homes all have information and brochures on pre-planning, so that's not a problem. They're going to want to provide that to the client. And then, as I said, the free gift can be anything from our end-of-life planner, which is very popular with people and is certainly useful and functional, as well as the little idea of the ruler that I talked about. What's the potential of this market? It's really, really unlimited. You can contact several funeral homes and work with all of them. But do not contact or contract two funeral homes in the same area unless they are specific in well-defined markets. For example, you might contract an African-American funeral home and a primarily white funeral home. There's no conflict. But if you get into two funeral homes that are both vying for the same clients, you'd have a problem. Now, when I was an IMO back in the late 80s and early 90s, headquartered in Atlanta, I ended up with over 50 funeral homes in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina contracted with me and did a little over $3 million of premium with them. I helped sponsor funeral home director meetings, outings, conventions. Yes, I spent some money, but it also came back to me in many times in rewards from the premium that they did with my carriers. A funeral home sale should never interfere with your regular leads-driven sales, but they can complement and can be a supplement to what you're doing. They can give you additional sales. They can help you increase your PPL. And you may discover a previously undisclosed market for new final expense sales in working the funeral home market. David, that's it for me today.
Thank you so much, Lee. It's very informative. You know, a lot of people probably never thought about working the funeral home market, and surely there's some questions. So I'm going to unmute everyone's line or set the mute setting. Our listeners, you can hit *6 to unmute your line if you have a question for Lee Mowry, and I'll give about 15 seconds before I ask my questions. Is there any questions for Lee Mowry regarding the funeral home market? And as they're thinking there, Lee, you mentioned two different angles. One, possible referrals or sales for the sale of life insurance, but also the possibility to pick up, an avenue of income from those funeral homes writing business through you and through One Life. What type of approach did you use? I know you had the survey letter, but when you walked in the front door, did you just say, "Hello, I'm Lee Morgan, insurance agent," and what was your initial approach?
To the funeral home themselves, to the funeral director?
Yes, sir.
Actually, the best way to work this market is through referrals, believe it or not, just like we do in our own life insurance business. I landed by walking in, yes, initially. I walked into some of the larger funeral homes in Atlanta and that area. And we settled on an agreement. They agreed that the final expense insurance made sense for many of their clients who could not afford pre-need insurance and had no cash on hand to pay for it. So the concept was easily saleable because it was more affordable. But then the great part, David, was I didn't have to go door to door knocking on more doors. They would simply, I'd say, do you have funeral director friends that I should contact? Of course, they would never give you anybody in their area, but they would refer me to someone else in a different city or different town. And then you get involved in the association. You start to learn and network and meet more funeral directors that way. So I really never had to worry about appointments. It was easy to go see the people who were interested in, as I said, easily over 50, probably 60 funeral homes that were actually doing business with me.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions for Lee today. And Lee, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. And with your head cold, your annual head cold and all, I think it's this chill that hit the southeast this weekend is causing everybody to have scratchy throats and runny noses. So hopefully everybody will heal up with some vitamin C and have a good time over the Thanksgiving holidays. I want to leave everyone with a quote from Winston Churchill, and this made sense. I know it was based on more of a career and success story there, but during the week of Thanksgiving, it made sense to me. Winston Churchill said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." So remember to give back during this holiday season and give thanks for everything. Next week, John Spinner is going to join us, and Miss Erin is going to bring us our devotion. So make sure to tune in on Monday, May the 30th, for our next call. Thanks again, Lee, and everyone have a fantastic holiday weekend. Goodbye, One Life. Bye-bye.